Well, after a 14-hour flight from Vancouver, prior to which we had a 6 or 7 hour flight from Montreal, prior to which we had a 3-day, 28-hour drive from Florida, we arrived in New Zealand yesterday and landed in Auckland, the capital, traveled to Hamilton, and now we are just outside of Raglan. Here are some of that's the kitchen and entertainment area above. This is another kitchen down here. Yesterday we had a 10-minute walk, they claim. I thought it was more 15. Of course, if you're going with a crutch, it might take a little longer. It is quite impressive, the fact that the water falls 55 meters and it's like a bridal veil. It does spread out. Anyway, we spent the night here. It was quite entertaining. A lot of young people. Most of them, they're from Netherlands, Sweden, and Germany, and the other one from the Netherlands, from Malaysia, one or two from Great Britain.
So what has struck you most about New Zealand so far?
They have cattle, cattle, and cattle. There's hundreds of thousands of cattle. Everywhere we drove so far, we passed large herds of cattle, both beef and dairy, mostly beef. I was pleased at the price of gas, although it's $1.75 New Zealand. It's only about 80 cents or whatever they call them for diesel, which is very reasonable because diesel is so much easier to produce. And that we charge more for diesel than gas is, I can't understand how that happens. But anyway, New Zealand, we're in the North Island, which is quite lush. It has natural growing palm trees and a lot of different kinds of trees that I've never seen before. Our table over in the kitchen right next to us and upstairs is about 3 inches thick. It's about 4 feet wide, and this here is the smaller one down here in the kitchen.
This is the little sauna.
This is our little table, but some of the trees here are just simply enormous, the size of them, as you can see from just that table there. It's a hostel. It's not made for people in their 70s, basically. However, we survived. We've done worse in our time. We went along and we came to Waitomo, where I took the easy road and I went in a cave with lots of glowworms in it, and I took a boat and floated down an Aisi River inside the cavern and came out. Michelle, on the other hand, took the other route and she went into a real cave and did a whole bunch of things that at my age I decided it was better I shouldn't do. Anyway, I quite enjoyed it, even though I had been in a cave 4 days earlier in Shenandoah Valley. But anyway, it was interesting in the cave coming down the river. Apparently it was founded only in 1894. And it very soon became a very popular tourist attraction. It was the earliest tourist attraction as such in all of New Zealand. Then we had the cultural evening, and where we had a short display of the Maori language and some customs, and then we ate in their communal area. And after we did a haka. They did a haka. The one that they did, which is the one normally done by the New Zealand rugby team, is called akimate. Akimate, akimate, kaora, kaora, kamate, kamate, kaora, kaora. And then I won't speak in more. The English translation would be, "Behold, the sun stands There stands the hairy man who will cause the sun to shine. One step upwards, another step upwards. One step upwards, another step upwards. Wahiti Tara, which means the sun shines. It had to do with the fact that the early chieftain who united most of the Marae, as a young man, had been pursued by his enemies, and he hid in a food storage area and survived, not knowing whether he would ever, if he was, of course, discovered, he would have been slaughtered and eaten. However, they didn't find him, and after he wrote this, really fierce dance. It's often used in preparation for war, but not necessarily. The one for war, which they didn't actually do, is supposed to be a haka Peru Peru, which is with weapons, but they did it without the weapons. But it was fierce. You could be afraid just watching them. They really put a lot of effort into it. Anyway, it was a wonderful way to spend the evening. Here's just another of the tables here. They're hardwood. Well, this one here is relatively quite small compared to some of the ones we've seen. Some of them are that wide, and they're quite extremely interesting. I think they're very practical.
What were the sleeping arrangements?
Oh. You had a mattress on the floor, and a sheet over it, and a sleeping bag, and it worked. Everybody slept in the same room, and there was no problem in that regard. Everything was open. They don't lock. They didn't lock anything and they up. Provided breakfast for us. They fed us the night before. I thought I was very pleased with it. Anyway, yesterday we did Hobbiton there. The trip was really worth the effort. I had my doubts about it at first, but I really thought it was really quite interesting. They had done a tremendous amount of work in establishing the place, and even the beer was quite good. Yes, we came to our hotel, which was very nice actually, more than I had anticipated. So we were quite pleased with that. And the owner invited us on a little nature trip in the evening, and he drove us 35 kilometers to a nature area, and where we had the actual glowworms in the wooded area above our heads as opposed to down below. He explained a lot about the birds and the various animals here in New Zealand. I believe he's probably a professional guide for hunting and fishing. Anyway, he made it quite a memorial trip there. So we had a pleasant evening with him, and he just offered to do it out of the blue, so that was quite appreciated. Okay, Friday the 29th of April, our main activity for the day was zip line, and we were in virtually a rainforest. It's only about, I don't know, 10-15 kilometers from Rotorua. It's up fairly high, and it had some monstrous trees there. There were trees, 1,000-year-old trees, and while they weren't quite as the same as in California, they were huge. These were hardwood trees as opposed to the softwood trees there. Anyway, the zip lining was a lot of fun, and they were very careful about it, so there's no real danger. There was a little bit more walking than I had anticipated to get to it, because from the road we had to walk in to the part of the forest where they had them established. And they had done a remarkable job in setting up the zip lines. They're up in the trees and they're very secure. A lot of work, hundreds and hundreds of hours would have gone into it, maybe thousands of hours would have gone into preparing it.
Yep, we go. You got that on video.
New Zealand has unfortunately been invaded by possums from Australia, and a big thing here when you're driving is if there's a possum on the road, you do your best to try to run over it. We were told there's, I forget if it's either 40 or 60 million possums here. And the problem with possums, there's also rats, which came on ships, and that was not intentional, but they're everywhere except Antarctica now. And the other one is shoats, which is a small, vicious type of an animal. Looks somewhat like a weasel. The shoats were brought in to try and kill the rats. Unfortunately, the shoats decided they preferred to eat the kiwi, the national bird of New Zealand. And so they think they've got, I think, 20% of the area that they have under. We're at our Sport of Kings motel. Adjacent to us is a horse racing track, and guess where the name came from. Anyway, yesterday was marathon day. Good
on you, Amy, congratulations. Here's Michelle McAdam from Montreal. Level 1 of international competitors. Well done, Michelle. 1 minute 45 to go to get under the 6 hour mark.
I went to down along the lake, There was mud pools there boiling over and steam coming out of holes in the rocks. Of course, they had warning signs not to go near any of this, but there was no one around, so I went and checked them out. Michelle did her marathon and was interviewed for a sporting newspaper here at the end of the race. And Michelle went to a spa after, and I came back to the motel. On the way, I stopped into a grocery store. The marketing is quite interesting. How they arrange that you must go buy certain things before you get to the things that you really want. Anyway, then I took a taxi back. By the way, much of New Zealand is volcanic in origin. Here we have a large chunk of obsidian, not as large as a vehicle, but our host here, Peter, pointed out that some chunks of this are as large as his SUV. Anyway, it's it's obsidian. It's used for making knives. It makes very sharp knives, and the natives probably would create their weapons from it. Peter from the motel, he brought us down to the duck tour. The duck is DUKW, similar to the Harbor Hopper in Halifax. So they took us around, and we took a short tour through downtown Rotorua.
Of the three lakes we're going to visit today, this is the one that we don't go on to. And it's simply because it has a bit of a pollution problem. Now, not with rubbish or anything really bad like that, but with a type of weed that grows in the bottom of this lake. Now, this is a really, really big lake, right? But believe it or not, it actually only has an average depth of about 4 or 5 meters, this massive lake. And we have to drive about 1 kilometer into it before we become a boat. And that entire time, we're just collecting all of these weeds on the running gears underneath the duck as we go along. Now get this. This was the first public bathhouse in New Zealand to allow males and females to bathe together in the nude. Let's do the genuine World War II experience here this morning. Down the beach. Now obviously the boat ramp would be lovely and smooth. The beach, not so much. It's going to be really, really bumpy. So everyone needs to be in your seats, holding on.
I found that the duck was of a good age there. It was built in 1942, which I thought was a really good year. And 2 of the lakes were quite interesting. One of them was
The Blue Lake.
the Blue Lake was has a very high-priced property along it. Of course, here the north side, north-facing property is far more valuable. Here are 2 of the lakes that we traveled on. It was a good trip. After that, we went back to the motel. We got some bicycles, and we took our own tour down along Lake Rotorua, and we saw some of the downtown area. It's a huge caldera. It's a volcano that blew apart, and this is the base of it, and it's humongous. is all different colors. It has certain odors to it. Hydrogen sulfide, CO2. The caldera has lots of different pits. There's mud pits where there's mud boiling out of the water. They have a geyser there that works on its own once every day or two, but for us tourists, they throw in a little something like soap. The water under it is almost 300 degrees Celsius. We went kayaking on sit-on kayaks. The Maori settlement where we were, it wasn't great. They had cold showers. However, soon on the bus we came to Te Raga, also known as Kerosene Creek, which has water, I don't know, it's about blood temperature. A little hotter than, it would be about 30, 40 degrees, I would think.
Of course.
Anyway, so a lot of us went for a little bath in there. It was quite pleasant. It was close to the road, so it was a very short walk. And that was a nice start to the day. And then we were off to Kaingaroa, and we went through the largest managed forest in the southern hemisphere. And it's 25% owned by the Ontario Teachers Federation, Teachers Pension Fund, and 75% by Harvard University. After that, we had a lot of things. Waikato River, which is 425 kilometers long. It has seven or eight power generation stations, and it produces 15% of the total power for New Zealand. And it was interesting. It's quite a raging river where we were, and very nearby there happened to be a bungee place and a swinging place. There they go. We went horseback riding up the big hills there. We saw some wild horses on the way that had been caught and are going to be trained. Anyway, it was great from up above. We had a real good view of the 7,500 acre ranch.
The Manuka.
May 6th, we traveled to Wellington. Not Wellington Street, but Wellington, the capital of New Zealand. It was a long drive, hours in the bus. It was quite interesting though, the different landscapes though in the country. So it wasn't really a kind of waste, it was interesting to drive. We got there quite late, so it was almost 5 o'clock or so. So we had driven by the Te Papa, the museum, free entrance by the way. It was really interesting. There's 4 floors and dozens of exhibits. We saw the Gallipoli landings of the Anzac troops in the First World War. Yesterday was kind of a long day. We left at 6:30 in the morning from Wellington, and we arrived in Auckland around 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. So it was a long day's trip. The only good thing, we had a very nice hotel, and our driver dropped us off right at the hotel. We left Auckland there, and we got to an area where they had the Tree of Life. It's a kauri tree in New Zealandish. It's the tree used in the movie Avatar. It's the Tree of Life. Anyway, it was interesting. I here yesterday. Michelle took a boat. I went up to Waitanga, where the 1840 treaty was signed. Came back and joined the bus again, and took another trip back to Auckland, and we arrived at the Skyline Hotel.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Michelle. We're on top of the Sky Shower here in Auckland, New Zealand. Now she's about to do a sky jump. 630 feet, 11 seconds. How you feeling?
Wow, yeah.
You
We're all
excited?
crazy. I can't believe I'm doing this.
That's great. What we do is we get a shot of this view here. And should we show everyone where you're going? All the way down there.
I'm not gonna look.
Let's go. Perfect. That's it. You're gonna get those toes up on the edge for me. You can do it. Perfect. Now I'm gonna give you a countdown very shortly, Michelle. When I say go, you just need to let go of both hands. Take a big step off me, okay? Side split. Here's Michelle in 3, 2, 1, go! You can do it, you just gotta let go, mate. Hands first for me.
Oh, was I called hands first?
Yeah, ready? And 3, 2, 1, go!